First, we've
Call the meeting of the County Commissioners to order. Libby, there's one announcement, I believe.
Thank you,
Ones.
Mr. Chairman. It's the usual announcement that this meeting is being video and audio recorded.
Is there any public comment to come before the County Commissioners tonight? Is there any new business? Next item, approval of minutes and warrants for April 26th and for May. Those are approved without objection. Any commissioner reports or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Dawn, it's all yours.
All right. Good job. So we'll call the May 24th meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. There is one change to actually there are a couple of changes to the agenda. We have a couple of extra announcements, which we'll note when we do the announcements. And number 8 under the consent items has been removed. With those changes and no objection, we'll accept the agenda. Announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This meeting is being video and audio recorded. Next, we have a very special recognition of Wayne Lampson, the General Manager of the Steamship Authority. And we're going to do a couple of things here. I would like to say a few words in reference to Wayne, and then the board members will come to the front, and we will have Wayne go through a kind of a receiving line of thanks. And then we'll return to our seats, and then the Nantucket rep to the Steamship Authority, Rob Ranney, will give an introduction of the new general manager coming in, Bob Davis. So I just wanted to say a few words regarding Wayne. He has been with the steamship. There's probably a lot to Wayne that many people on Nantucket do not realize. He's been with the steamship for a little over 46 years. He has risen through the ranks there to general manager in 2004, and I think it's pretty safe to say that following Wayne's promotion to that position, there was a real sea change in the relationship with Nantucket and the Steamship Authority. Wayne has been an incredible friend to Nantucket, and I think we've been very lucky to have had him as our friend. And I know a lot of this personally because of my family members' relationships on the board. Under Wayne's leadership, there have been many, many improvements in ticketing, reservations, the customer service. The vessels are greatly improved. The Nantucket terminal, I think, if you think back to the olden days, it's completely different. We're sorry to see Wayne go, but we wish him the best, and we are very appreciative of his longtime service. So.
So I could just say a few words. I appreciate this very much. It's very much unexpected. And when I first started full-time with the authority back in 1972, everything was running out of Woods Hole. And I'm thinking about back then, and in the winter, we had the Islander and the Uncotina each making a round trip to Nantucket during the day. And that was the winter schedule. And then, of course, everything through Hyannis over the years and how that's been developed. It's really been great. So I've really seen a sea change. In 2004, when I became the general manager, the island was talking about having a separate boat line, separate from the vineyard. And so with my accounting background, we were able to put a lot of the fears aside as far as whether the vineyard was subsidizing the Nantucket service and things, then moved on from there. There's been a lot of longevity with the treasurer position. In the 50 years under the current authority, there have been three treasurers over those 50 years. And two of them are in the room tonight. Bob Davis, the current treasurer, myself, have had that position for over 35 years. So there's a lot to be said about the continuity. And I think the Steamship Authority members did a great job of promoting from within. We've had some people before that have come in from the outside, didn't understand the islands and what their real needs were, and so and to promote somebody from within now, again, I think makes a lot of sense. We're going through a huge reconstruction project in Woods Hole. It's the last of the terminals to be reconstructed. We started here in 1982, and then we've moved on to the Vineyard and to Hyannis and Oak Bluffs, and now it's Woods Hole's turn, and so it's a huge project before we start turning our attention back to Nantucket again. So I just wanted to say that, and a lot of these accomplishments couldn't be done without the men and women who work for the Steamship Authority. And we do a lot of training, we do a lot of customer service training, and we do customer service, customer satisfaction surveys. And when we do those in 2015, on a scale of 1 to 10, 94% of those that responded to the survey gave us a rating of 7 or better. And 70% gave us a 9 or 10. And then last year we did it again, and again it was 94% that gave us a rating of 7 or better, and the number that gave us a rating of 9 or 10 went up to 78%. So I think we are seeing this change, and but all the credit goes to the men and women, and also the people that boards like you send to the Steamship Authority to represent the islands. When I started, Adrian Roggeveen was the member, and then Phil Reed, and then Bernie Grossman and Grace Grossman, Flint Ranny, and now Rob's doing a great job. And so it's because of that it really works so well. So thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Rob?
Out with the old, in with the new. So I'd like to introduce the next general manager of the Steamship Authority, Robert Davis. Bob Davis began his career with the steamship in 1986 as an internal auditor, becoming chief auditor in 1995 and then assistant treasurer in 97. Then after that, he became the treasurer comptroller in 2005 after the previous treasurer comptroller, Mr. Lamson, moved on to general manager. So you can see there's sort of a trend here. As your representative to the Steamship Board, I hold Bob personally responsible for the excellent financial condition that the Steamship Authority is in right now. I am grateful, as we all should be, for his commitment to the complicated budgetary challenges of maintaining an equitable rate structure for a 365-day-a-year operation that has to generate the majority of its revenue during the high season in order to sustain itself throughout the lean off-season. Bob has worked closely with Wayne for 30 years, and therefore I have no doubt that he will continue this era of smooth sailing as we look forward to meeting the challenges of the future by continuing to listen to our customers and employees and constantly work to improve the Steamship Authority operation and traveling experience wherever we can. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you for having us here for this evening, and as Rob put in Wayne before him, that it's really a team effort. So the success that the Steamship Authority has had over these years is, well, it starts at the helm. It has to filter down to all the crews and the people shoreside and on the vessels as well. So we'll continue that. Looking forward to continuing that process and trying to make it the best service that we can, and make sure it's it's a reliable and economical for both of the islands. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both. We look forward to working with you. A couple other announcements. The Memorial Day Parade will be held Sunday, May 28th, this Sunday. It starts at 1 p.m. at the Legion. Town offices will be closed on Monday, the 29th, in observation of Memorial Day. There's no Selectmen's meeting next Wednesday, the 31st, as it's the fifth Wednesday. There is a conference scheduled for Tuesday, June 6th, the 2017 Nantucket Coastal Conference. It's at 9:30 to 5 at the Athenaeum Great Hall. I know that we've got some staff people attending that, and if any of the board members want to go, I'm sure you'll be welcomed. And we have a couple of extra items that came in late. One of them is an announcement regarding Farmer Street. This street runs between Pine and Fair. The sewer department and the water company are going to be replacing sewer and water mains on that street, and that project is taking place from May 30th through June 16th. It'll be during the day, all day. That street will be closed. The project includes complete milling of the entire roadway once the work is done, and repaving the full width of that road. And I want to commend the water and sewer departments for working in coordination to get that project done at one time. Lastly, we have a brief item about occupancy compliance.
Yep, we just had some questions that have come up from various businesses in town about occupancy compliance inspections, and we just wanted to make it known that we will get an update on that on at our June 7th meeting, which is our next regular meeting. And in the meantime, at least an additional meeting will be set up with various restaurants and businesses. So this is the public comment portion of our agenda. If there's anything anyone wishes to bring up that's not otherwise on our agenda, now's the time. Hearing nothing. I don't think there's any new business that I'm aware of. Approval of minutes, warrants, and pending contracts. Any edits to the minutes? Oh, you know what? I did have one. There was, Jesse Dutra's name was misspelled. It was I-E instead of just E. I'd have to figure it. I'll let you know. Anything else? A motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'll approve the payroll warrants and treasury warrants by unanimous consent. And then the pending contracts, Libby, if there are any questions, and if there's anything you wanted to point out specifically.
I think they're all pretty straightforward. I just want to mention on the first one, it's a contract amendment for DPW with Victor Brandon Corp. This is not a monetary item. It's an amendment to the paving contract that regards a warranty for road work done on the Federal Broad Street project. And the rest of them, I think, are pretty straightforward. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I just had one on the new agreement for maintenance on the Marine Department vessels. Is that new? Had it been a different vendor before, or is this a renewal? Or?
I think it's a renewal contract. It
Great.
expired in.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll move on to the consent items, all except for number 8, as noted before. And I believe we could take this all as one motion, unless anyone had any
Move
questions.
approval of all but 8.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Citizen departmental requests.
Madam Chairman, the first item relates to a bond anticipation note that is being issued, and there's a specific vote. I think Brian could briefly
It's
explain.
going to go up on the screen.
Okay. So when we get the motion up, it'll be asking you to approve 3 individual sales. There were 3 sales. There was a Series A, B, and C. 2 of the Series A and B are being taken through November, when we expect to do permanent financing, and then Series C, which is going through to June of 2018. It's going for 12 months because we don't expect the projects to be ready to be permanently financed in time for November. The total value is just around $34 million worth of bands, broken down between the airport, the school, water company, and solid waste. The 2 series for November, we got net interest charges of 1.5% on a portion of it because it actually was deemed taxable, because some of it's private purpose, which we have to actually do a calculation for tax purposes. The 2 exempt pieces, we got 0.85 and 0.98 net interest charge, which is consistent or actually better than what First Southwest has been seeing with all the other sales. So we've consistently beat the interest rates that most other communities are getting in an offering every year over year.
Okay.
That's okay. Oh, I'm done. Unless they have questions.
Can we do a motion referencing this vote
Yeah. All you're gonna
dated
do
May
is-
24th, 2017?
Yes. You don't have to read the entire vote. You can just, once it gets up, you can reference the vote that was included, and then that is sufficient. There you go.
Okay. Could someone make a motion?
So moved.
Referencing the language dated May 24th, 2017?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nantucket Center for Elder Affairs, request to sublet Saltmarsh Senior Center building to Dreamland Foundation for times during July and August.
Madam Chairman, I'm not sure anybody's here on this item, but there's the town of Nantucket owns the land on which the Saltmarsh Senior Center is located, and there's a lease provision that says that I'll just read it quickly. The lessee shall not have the right to assign or to sublet the whole or any part of the leased land, nor to lease to others for commercial purposes the entire building thereon, nor any part thereof without the express written consent of the lessor. So I think the idea here is that the Nantucket Center for Elder Affairs would like to lease a part of the building for a period of time to the Dreamland for revenue. and it requires the approval of the town.
Seems like a good purpose, so I'd make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it'll be on off hours, obviously, not when it's in operation during the day.
And then we have a Greentown LLC request. I think that David Fredericks is here to make some comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dave Fredericks for the record. Before you have a request, really, which represents a change in use, if you will, in a private way. The area that is south of Greenhound is an unnamed private way, and our agenda here is to provide some pedestrian access and to allow for one additional bus lane that would be opened up. It does have some requirements on the town side. We'd be looking for support to name the way, the private way, as a one-way road and to limit the parking on that side of the street. The last part of the request is to enter into an agreement through, starting with this letter before you, that would allow enforcement on a private way and to allow enforcement for the police department on Greenhound's property to help with all of the various traffic issues that exist in and around what we know as the bus area.
Questions, comments?
I believe this is, one component of this is to accommodate the buses for the contractor shuttle. And so thanks to Remain and
Oh,
Greyhound
yeah.
for,
Not the contractor shuttle, the
Yeah, the
tour
contractor shuttle, I
buses.
believe, will be working very similar to where it did in the past.
right.
But this will
But
allow
the-
that area to be freed up and work
Right.
differently.
And they'll be having the island tour buses coming through there.
Right.
Yeah, which,
And the wheelchair ramp is essentially where there's about 4 spaces parking, or people kind of park up against the hedge. on
Yeah, so the
unnamed
hedge,
way.
the hedge would be taken out, and then there'll be a 7-foot walkway put in with the handicap access on both ends of it. And so it's our suggestion that that parking be eliminated. What we offered to traffic safety is to visit once the sidewalk's in to see if there's any way that one or a little of the parking may remain, but we don't believe we can make that decision clearly until we see this installed.
Right.
Madam Chair, I just want to disclose that I own a business that's right across the street from that. Just wanted to just make sure everybody knows that.
Okay. So in a motion, you need us to reference the one-way and to allow
Allow the town
Public
administrator
safety.
to put together special regulation to allow the police chief and his department to have the right to enforce.
Okay, does someone want to make that motion?
I make a motion to approve and to allow the police chief to enforce a one-way on the unnamed private way.
Through the town manager.
Yeah, through town admin.
Second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, just a quick little update maybe on the shuttle service that the Highline is going to be providing for contractors. It will start on Tuesday, May 30th, and end on Friday, September 1st. 2 buses will meet the arrival of the Highline 6:15 a.m. departure out of Hyannis. The contractors, or whoever, will board the buses in the same location as in the past, that being the cutout across from the Stop and Shop parking lot by the gate onto Straight Wharf. There will be 3 departures in the afternoon back into town from the 2 Fairgrounds parking lot to meet the 3:30 Iano and the 4:05 Gray Lady 4 departures. They will discharge passengers at the same location in the past. That's on Easy Street after crossing over from Maine. The afternoon departures will leave Fairgrounds lot at 2:45, 3:10, and 3:35, and they're sending all of that information. The Highline's sending that information to their contractor accounts prior to the starting of the service. So just FYI.
Okay. So now we're on to the public hearing portion of the agenda. We have various real estate items. Andrew Vorse is here.
Hello, Board. How are you? Hi. So some of these, we're going to skip over the ones that are continued and move right to the,
Which ones are continued?
okay.
Okay. Do you want to go over the ones that need to be continued first? Or
So-
do we need to open each hearing? We need to open up. Okay. So we'll just go through them in order.
Okay, so we're continuing to July 19th, items A, B, C, and D.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I see it on there.
I think F too. Parcel.
Yeah, F, I.
F and I.
So we'll open the public hearing, and then we'll take a motion to continue A, B, C, D, F, and I.
So moved?
In a second.
A second.
All those in favor
Aye.
of continuing those items? Okay. So then we will go to E.
Okay, great. So on the map that's behind you, this is 4 equally sized parcels, which are part of Nobadir that is not constructed. This is a taking. So as are all of these, so disposition we will discuss later. So the choice here is, do we move forward with the takings and be part of what is the town meeting has authorized? So here we're taking the proposed 4 parcels. They're part of a section of road that is not necessary, and we'd recommend you move forward with these. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at the report that's included in your packet.
Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Pretty straightforward.
Should we go through them and then make one motion at the end?
Why don't you do them one at a time?
Okay, I was just unsure, do I need to close, because I need to close the public hearing, and they're all one before we vote. And then do one vote at the end, okay.
Okay. Next one is a G on your agenda. So this is a gore in the road, and as it shows on the map, so there was an earlier way here. Milk Street was extended, so it left this sort of leftover property here. So again, this regularizes the width of the street. This taking, was approved at town meeting. So can we ask you to move forward on this one?
Okay. Anyone from the public wishing to comment? Okay. Any board questions?
No?
Well, I guess one question, go back to that real quick. Would we consider and I'm not saying we should, but so that they'd be selling the unnamed road section, and then, underneath that is a paved apron and another block apron, a brick apron. Those are in the Milk Street right away, is that correct?
Right. You're going to find aprons within the right-of-way. That's part of a driveway permit, so yeah.
Okay, so they're fine. Okay, gotcha.
They are, right.
1931, right.
H.
Next item is H. This is property located in Tom Nevers. This is essentially a confirmatory deed. This land in question was part of a subdivision from the 80s. One of the conditions was that this land be offered to the town. It's been carried as town land ever since. What we found is that deeds were delivered to, the town. They were not put on record, even though a town meeting was voted to approve this land. This is way before Libby was in her crib back then in the 80s, so way before any of us were here. But this needs to be finalized. There's registered land here, and we're really just following through on something that got overlooked.
Okay. Are there any public comments on item H? Any board questions? Okay. Move on to J.
So next slide, Erica. It's part of the other one. No, it's the one you had. Yep, that one. So here, this is a parcel on Winoma Way, also known as Atlantic Boulevard. Part of town meeting authorization. This is a portion of the road not constructed. You can see that there's a path here which is located on the south side. Again, this is a taking, not a disposition. There's been concerns expressed about keeping the ability to move the path in the event that there's erosion. I think that's all valid, and that would be included in any sort of disposition in the future. The question is whether we move forward with the taking here or not.
Okay.
I just had a question. What is a springing easement?
A springing easement is something that we put in place in the event something happens. So the easement springs to life. It might not be needed now, but in the event there's erosion or there's a need to move the path, it would.
In reserve or something?
It's a reserved easement.
Okay, good, thank you.
So is this one that the land bank, that there's been some history with the land bank?
There may be, I think I see land bank people here.
Did anyone from the public wish to comment on item J?
Hi, Eric Zavetsky, the Director of the Land Bank. The Land Bank Commission has discussed this because the Land Bank owns the property directly to the south of where the taking would occur. We've got extensive beach property there, and the only access to it, because of the coastal bank, which is basically right off the edge of the road, is Winoma Way or Atlantic Boulevard. We constructed a beach stairs, which is shown pointing south or downward on that plan there. So it's a beach stairs for the neighborhood. It's one of the only public accesses to the area, to the beach from that area. And we've had some problems with the neighbor to the north. They appealed our Concom decision to put in those beach stairs, and they're used by the neighborhood. If the board does proceed with the taking, the Land Bank Commission has asked me to ask the board that they either retain that piece of land, parcel A, as town-owned land, or potentially convey it to the land bank rather than conveying it to the abutter. And that's what I'm here to convey.
Okay. Let's go next.
Madam Chair, Stephen Cohen, I represent several of the abutters, but the primary one is Laura McCluskey, who is at 7 Surrey Avenue. I'm just going to give you a set. Let me for the record. If you look at the GIS photos, the 98 photo shows that this is an open road, and then the 2003 photo shows that this is an open road. And then in 2007, you can see that there's dirt with nothing on it. And in 2012, you can see it's grass. And in 2014, you can see that it's a heavily vegetated area with a very thin path. This area used to be widely used by the public and has been closed off before anybody had permission to. And I know I'm a big fan of the yard sale program. I think that Andrew, his office does a fantastic job with it. I come in and ask for these things all the time for my clients. But I think one of the primary things the board should be doing is protecting public access to the water and public access to vistas. This area is beautiful and is one of the, it's probably second to the Bluff Walk in the sense of the public's ability to really get there, right up there at a high vista. And I think it would be a shame if this area was closed off. My client would prefer to see it go to the land bank, would prefer to see it remain municipal, but frankly, even if it went to the abutter for ownership purposes, as long as there was a maintenance of access use for the public to be able to go down there, that would be an acceptable compromise. The ownership isn't really critical so much as the use is preserved for the public. It's a shame that it was covered over and blocked, and it should be maintained as a public access both to those beach stairs and frankly all the way to the west. So I would encourage the board with whatever action to maintain those public rights. Thank you.
Good evening. Kenneth Gullicks and I represent the abutting property owner. A lot of this is new to me. I had heard about the potential for the springing easement, which is fine with him as long as it's limited to that parcel A. But I haven't been able to discuss this with him because it just came up, but I think that he would be opposed to this taking if the property was to be either retained by the town or go to the land bank. So if that is the intent, then, again, I would like to be able to confirm this with him, but I think that he would be opposed to the taking going forward on that, if that was to be the case. And I realize that's not what the board is voting on tonight, but I just want to be on record that, and he initiated this process, but I believe, again, that he would be opposed if he were not to acquire the land ultimately, title. Which, again, it could be subject to the springing easement, that would be fine.
But does he want the path to remain open?
The path is currently not on this parcel that we're talking about. So if you look, it's that parcel A is what we're talking about, and then immediately to the south of that, you see that
Yeah, it's the right
kind of
below
angled,
it.
thinner line. That is the path, so it does not impact this.
But as it erodes, it would.
That would be the springing easement. So if there was in fact erosion and that path became unsafe or washed away or whatever, that could move by that springing easement into that parcel, and that would be acceptable, as long as it was limited to that parcel, not into his actual
Not into his
existing
property.
property line.
Andrew? Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's important for the board to realize that we only move forward with these if there's an agreement type situation. I mean, the land bank has the ability to take land on their own by eminent domain. If they want to take this land, they should proceed to town meeting and get the authority to do it. We don't have to do anything here. We can let the private parties work it out. But I think if they want to acquire it, they should seek the approval from town meeting and move forward with it. The reason this is put forward, as with all these paper streets, is we work cooperatively, so we're not subject to damages. I don't think it's really reasonable for the town to proceed ahead, keep this, or give it to somebody else, and not expect to pay damages. So if the land bank's in a position to cover the town's potential damages, that should be part of their request.
Are there any other public comments?
I think Steve's going to answer my question.
Maybe, but I just want to be really clear. You know, generally when these are being done, the idea is to maintain access for people who have it. And this is a very unusual situation where public access was diminished by I think by the abutter or someone in the dark of night who dumped a lot of dirt there and then germinated plant material on top of it. This is not something that has historically been closed off. If you go back and look at the GIS, it's historically been open, and to say, okay, well, I'm going to take action to put the path over here, and then say, give me this land, and we'll leave the path over there, I think really rewards something that this program generally does not do. And that's not to say that, you know, it should all be clear-cut and opened, but it's also not totally true to say that the path has historically been over there. The path this was historically open.
Well, can I make one comment? I'm pretty familiar with this area, and I think that just possibly part of it's gotten more overgrown because there are the land bank stairs now. Everyone from the Winoma side used to traverse over to the other set of stairs that's at the end of Bosworth. They all had agreements with the owner of those to use them. So, I mean, I do want to see this maintained open, and that's my priority. But I just it might not have been malicious to close it in.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty striking when you look at the width, 20, 30 feet wide, and then it drops down to, 4 feet or something, or whatever it really is. It's pretty narrow, and it does not appear to be naturally occurring in my observation. So I would hate to see that erroneously believed to be some little historic path that's always been over there when it wasn't. Matt, I don't know if I answered your question or not.
You did.
Yeah. So if the town moves forward with this, first of all, my client is not in agreement with this going forward and may or may not decide to, challenge it and seek damages. But I think that keeping the parcel open for public access should be critical, especially with the erosion there, but sort of regardless of it. Thank you.
Andrew?
Again, I just want to stress to the board, this is a taking. Right. This isn't the disposition. And I think I said at the beginning that we support maintaining some sort of easement over this property to ensure that there's public access here. When this was allegedly narrowed or whatever happened, these are private ways where people own to the center line, and private parties can move to enforce their rights over it. So we're stepping forward here and saying we'll be part of this to ensure future public access, but taking is the first step. Disposition comes later. That's when you put the restrictions on.
And how do we get someone to maintain the public access, to keep the path cut? That kind of thing.
Well, we have to own it and
Right.
put restrictions on it. Right now, the town has no rights in any of these ways. That's the point. By stepping forward with the taking, we're now part of the ownership group here. Right now, we have Land Bank to the south, and we have the other private parties.
But all these issues get,
In the disposition.
Yeah, in the disposition. So, and for people to oppose a taking because of what might happen, I don't understand that. I think we should take it and then, as Andrew's done over and over again, bring the parties together and seek some common ground and bring it back to the board.
I think to some extent we have to raise these issues now so people understand what might come during the disposition too, though. Kenneth?
Andrew may know more about this than I do, but it's my understanding, and I can't cite the exact authority, that if there is an objection, which I believe Mr. Cohen raised an objection to a taking, that there needs to be another hearing, that this needs to be either continued or rescheduled for another hearing by statute. That's my understanding.
Well, a road taking requires a second hearing, but if that would be helpful to the process to continue this, that's fine too.
We could continue this one item to next month.
To next month or to the July meeting, either way.
Eric?
Would that give you enough time to meet with the parties?
I think so.
Okay.
I just wanted to speak to, Andrew talked about the land bank and the land bank potentially doing a taking of the road. I don't think the land bank has any interest in taking it. We're happy to see it stay a road that would allow for our access to our property to move back if erosion does threaten the existing access. So we're not anxious to take the road or necessarily even own it. I was just suggesting if the town does do a taking, then the land bank would much prefer to either own it or have the town own it rather than only having an easement, which makes it much more challenging to exert public rights in it. You have more resistance from the owner of it because you don't actually own it. So in this case, where there's public access to the ocean, we think it should remain in public ownership, whether it's or as a roadway, which allows us to use it.
Okay. Would everyone be in agreement in holding this over till the July 19th meeting with these other items? Is that okay?
I have a question for just one more for Andrew. In some of these, when we're near the water, some of the negotiation is one big beach easements for the property that's adjoining.
Right.
Yeah, so I would hope, I would think the public access is the most important component here. And I would like to think that if we do a taking, that you'll find, you guys will negotiate and find some way to make it the same as the other ones we've done.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear, the board,
Yeah.
just as we are as concerned as future, for future public access here. So, but again, we don't have to move forward if there's going to be a big fight.
Yeah, I understand.
Next item,
Okay.
K. This is a property, it looks like it's, if you look on the GIS map, it looks like it's well inland and off the shore, but that's actually not correct. That property is basically on the beach, partially submerged. And this proposed taking is to join it with other town-owned land and establish public ownership of the beach.
Are there any public comments? Any board questions? Okay, one more.
One more.
L?
M, and Erica, do you have a map of that? It's the same situation. Basically, this is in Surfside. It's below, south of the airport. Majority of this is has been eroded underwater, but there is a remaining piece that, again, should be under town ownership with adjoining land that's also in the town ownership. So this clears up that situation.
Any public comments? Any board questions? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. No? Oh, I'm sorry, we'll continue the items to July 19th that were referenced, including the addition of item J. Get a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And can we close the remaining portion of the public hearing to vote on the other items? A motion to?
Close that portion? Yes.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then a motion to approve those takings?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. We'll take that up again on July 19th. Our second public hearing is to consider applications for appointments. And I think there may be some people here tonight who want to introduce themselves. Agricultural Commission, we have 2 applicants. Sure. John Cosba and Campbell Sutton. Is it either person here wanting to speak? No? Then we have the Airport Commission. We have two seats and 4 applicants. Arthur Gasparo, Anthony Buscarin, Jared Smith, and Linda Williams. I see Art back there.
And Mr. Buscarin is not available.
Okay.
Hello, thank
Hello.
you. I've submitted my application to maintain my seat. I've been working very hard for my last 2 terms, trying to foster, really a relationship between the airport and the town. And I put a lot of time in. I prepare for all of the meetings. I believe that I'm an asset to the community and the commission. I understand that there are, difficult decisions, as you all well know, that need to be made sometimes. One of the things, of course, that we've been facing as commissioners, as a community, and as the airport are the declining employments and the sort of change in the demographic from the airport to the fast ferries, really. That, of course, at the same time, as a commissioner, we have to look to remain fiscally solvent, not depend on the town for a subsidy as the enterprise fund. And so with that, it does, some hard decisions need to be made sometimes with respect to fees and rates and charges, and not everybody's always happy about that. But we have to do our best to make decisions that are best for the community and for the airport, and also not to come back to the town really seeking a subsidy. So while I do understand that sometimes there are concerns where not everybody's always happy with every decision, I want you as the selectmen and the finance committee and the town administration to know that I try to make my decisions based on what's really best for the town and for the airport, and also with consideration to to the tenants and to the leaseholders, and how do we really try to make, you can't make everybody happy, but you have to do your best to be sure that we also stay in the black. I value my role as sort of, I see as a policymaker and not a micromanager. I'm very pleased with the job that Manager Rafter has done since I was part of the search committee that had hired him, and I'm part of his reviews. I don't have a problem with occasionally if there's something that is a concern of being critical. With that, I would like to continue in my position, and I would respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm here if you had any questions for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Art.
Hi, board. My name is Jared Smith. I'm an applicant, and I put in. Well, first off, let me a little bit about myself. Sure. A little bit about myself. I'm an air traffic controller here. I work in the tower. I've been here about 7 years. Also a private pilot, so I definitely have the aeronautical experience. Not so much the government experience, but I'm looking to. I just wanted to say that the airport is in the business of airplanes, and for a good 8 months of the year, there are no airplanes here. So I think there are a lot of things that we can do to bring back aviation here. The boats have taken a lot of business, but I think the general aviation could come back if you gave them an incentive to, give them, a discount on landing fees or something on the off season or shoulder season or whatever. So that's just briefly what I had to say. And, I've been coming here my whole life, flying here with my grandfather. He flies, he's been flying here for 50 years. So thanks, and thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Jared.
So I don't think the other applicants are here. Board of Health, we have 2 seats and 3 applicants. Stephen Bender, Helene Weld, who I believe could not be here tonight, and Stephen Visco. I see Stephen. Good evening.
Steve Visco for reappointment, Board of Health. Any questions? No?
Nope. Thanks for coming.
Okay, thanks.
Capital Program Committee. We have 1 opening and 1 applicant, who's the incumbent, Richard Hussey.
2 seats.
No, I'm sorry, 2. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, 2 seats, but 1 applicant. Oh, and we have a second.
Christie.
Oh, excuse me, I'm not looking behind me. So we have 2 applicants. I don't think either one is here tonight, but they're both currently on the board. Cemetery Commission, we have 2 seats, 3 applicants. Scott MacGyver, Francis Cartoonan, and Alan Reinhard. I know Alan is here. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Alan Reinhardt, Chairman of the Cemetery Commission. The Cemetery Commission has come a long way since we were formed just not that many years ago. We have gone through each of the 9 town-owned cemeteries to do 2 things: to see what improvements can be made in each of those cemeteries. Each of the commissioners has visited each of the 9 cemeteries, and while we were there, we compiled a list of the improvements that we want to make, both the short-term and the long-term. And the DPW has been very helpful as far as cutting the brush that was growing in, covering graves actually at particularly at New North and Old North cemeteries. We have also replaced the signs. You might remember that they used to have the plywood signs that were painted white with the plastic lettering that had the name of the cemetery. We removed all of those signs and replaced them with glacial erratics that were embossed with the name of the cemetery. The embossing was also painted in with epoxy, so it should last for a good long time. And we are in the process. We've also opened Pulpus Cemetery. When the Cemetery Commission was formed, there was no burial space, no known burial space in any of the 9 cemeteries that the town controls. We have opened up Pulpus Cemetery for cremations. We have sold 44 lots in Pulpus Cemetery since opening up that cemetery, and we've laid out a total now of about 134 lots in Atapualpa Cemetery. We're working with Andrew to secure additional space at Newtown. Newtown Cemetery is the one on Sparks Avenue behind the high school. And there are actually there are 3 lots that are adjacent to it. We have done the deed research to demonstrate that all of that was considered a cemetery, and we're working now on getting that approved. Once that is done, we'll be able to provide additional burial space for the town, including full burials. So that's just some of the things that we've done over the few years that we've been in operation. So I am seeking re-election for one more term. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thanks, Alan. Any questions?
No. Thank you.
I'm not sure that either other applicant was here. Okay, so Conservation Commission, we have 2 seats and 2 applicants. Ernest I don't want to mispronounce that, Steinauer, and Ashley Erisman. I don't think either one is here. The Contract Review Subcommittee for Human Services, we have 1 seat, and if anyone is interested, we do not have any applicants as of yet for that seat. Council for Human Services, 4 seats available. We have 1 applicant, Linda Williams. Linda's not here. Council on Aging, 4 seats available, 4 applicants. Marianne Easley, Randall White, Tom McGlynn, and Linda Williams. Cultural Council, 2 seats available. We only have 1 applicant, John Balash.
I know there's someone from the Council on Aging, I don't know if in the audience may want to speak. Randy White.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, please come up.
Randall White, Council on Aging reappointment. This is my 3rd board commitment for the Council on Aging, and I thought maybe this time it's time to kind of throw in the towel for this aging person. But then we started doing so many exciting things with the Council on Aging and working really closely with the Elder Services of Cape Cod. And we have such a great team that I thought I'm going to give it another go because we're going to do an awful lot in the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Finance Committee, we have 3 seats and 5 applicants. Joseph Grouse, Megan Blair Valero, Denise Crono, Jean Grimmer, and Joanna Roach. I see.
Joe Grouse and Jean Grimmer are both.
Yep, and Denise actually reached out to me, and she wasn't going to be here either. I know Joanna's here. And Megan, there you are.
Hi, my name is Megan Blair Valero. I've been a member of this community since 1999. My business is here, my children are here, my family is here, and I was looking for a committee to get involved in, to contribute to our community within the municipality. Finance was a natural fit for me with close to 2 decades now of doing administrative and finance work for various businesses and owning my own bookkeeping and accounting firm. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have, but that's my background.
Questions?
That's good.
Thanks, Megan.
Hi. I'm Joanna Roach. I just finished my first term on the Finance Committee, which I really enjoyed, and I think most of you know, but I have a lot of experience. I was previously on a Finance Committee for another town for 8 years and have served in town government before, and I think our group was well represented in terms of the demographics of Nantucket, and I think that we did a pretty good job this year and really enjoyed working together. So thank you for your consideration.
Questions? Last, Historic District Commission Associate Member. We have 1 seat and 1 person has applied, Jesse Dutra. So, we will take that up again when it's time to vote. Town Manager's report.
Thank you. Our first item is an update on our beach maintenance and preparation plan for the 2017 season. We are going to have a couple of different people up reviewing their departmental plans, and I think the harbor master maybe is the first one, Sheila. We have, just so the board understands, we have preseason beach meetings, mid-season beach meetings, and postseason beach meetings, and meetings in between if needed. And there's a lot of coordination between the town departments to keep the beaches open, functioning, cleaned, and with amenities for residents and visitors. And there's a lot of looking out for the beaches that goes on. So Sheila's going to take us through where we are. There's some monitoring that I think we're going to be doing for some beaches, but she's been quite on top of it.
Okay, we're going to talk about beach erosion and what we've been doing to get ready for the season. First beach is Nobodere. That beach looks pretty much the same as it usually does. We don't have a whole lot of erosion there. We did have some debris and stuff, but we've already cleaned that up, and we've been going back weekly to do cleanups. In the summertime, we have people on the beaches starting at 6:30 in the morning on ATVs, cleaning the beaches. We work it out with the land bank and also conservation, those conservation people. And we split the beaches up and clean them every day. But this time of year, we go weekly or a couple times a week to make sure that we get all the big stuff out of there. Maya Comet, same thing, not in bad shape at all, really good, so no changes there. Nantucket is where we had the most trouble this year, and this is the one that we are really monitoring. There was a ton of erosion. The beach is starting to come back now, but there's a lot of undermining, and we've got to work with the DPW director to tell us if it's safe for us to put a ramp for public access. This cliff is about 8 feet high right now. And there's no really safe way for us to get the people onto the beach. We've come up with a couple ideas. I need to run it by the DPW director because that's his area of expertise. But I think he's going to put some Jersey barriers up there so people won't drive off of that ledge. We hired Ken Coffin was out there 2 weeks ago. He took 2 dump trucks full of septic systems, the old Nantucket Road, and 2 dump trucks full of debris out of there, and it looks really good. We've cut that. You can see there's a water hose there. We've cut that. We've cut everything that is safe for us to cut, and we spent quite a bit of time there trying to get it ready in hopes that the beach comes back. Because Nantucket Beach is extremely busy for the lifeguards. The beach patrons average between 600 and 800 people daily. And if we can't guard in Nantucket, then the last lifeguards will be out in Cisco. And so that would leave from Cisco all the way to Smith's Point with no lifeguards. So we're really trying hard to make sure that we can get some lifeguards there. This was one idea that we had, but we have abandoned it because it's crossing private property and we're not going to be able to do it. Dionis, that snow fence there has been taken down and removed. And that place looks really good too. We always had a ramp there as well. It kind of looks like we're not going to have a ramp there, but we do have a ramp available if we need to. But the erosion there is made it so it's a lot smoother, and it's just not so steep to walk down it. Sconset Beach is Sconset Beach, stays the same. Cisco's the other place that we used to have a ramp, and again, we're looking at it this year. It's so much better than it was last year. Last year, we had to have the lifeguards up on that cliff with their box and their stand because there just wasn't enough beach. But this year, the beach has come back, and we are going to be able to put the stand down, and we don't think we need a ramp this year, which is going to be good. And we have no erosion at Jetties, Children's, and Surfside. Those beaches remain the same.
I have a question. How long does it take? You're looking in you've got the drop off in Nantucket. How long did it take in Dionis till it came shallow again? The angle of the floors changed. How many years?
We had the ramp there for 2 years.
So it takes a couple of years until it.
It's what it seems like.
Yeah.
Same thing with Cisco. We had the ramp out there for 2 years where we absolutely had to have it, and then this year it's
So
better.
it takes a couple of years till it comes back. Okay.
Yeah.
There's some planting. It looked like there's some planting at the end of the road, Cisco. Was that DPW, or is that not going to be accessible anymore? I don't know if that's something that
At
you
Cisco?
Yeah.
That's not me.
Not you.
That is part of an erosion control project that's one of the locations. And the idea is because the very end of Hummock Pond Road, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
That was part of a program a year or so ago meant to try to replenish the area at the end and to prevent additional erosion. And it's also at the end of Nantucket Road and I believe in Quays.
And will people be allowed to walk through that, or is that going to be totally closed off?
I think there might be a side path, but the idea is not necessarily for people to walk there because the walking tramples down the plants and hastens the erosion, and the idea is more to direct them over to where the parking lot is. And maybe eventually it'll build up and people could park there again or traverse through there again.
Just pass it on to all the surfers.
Yeah.
Also, we have beach access signs at all of the beaches. One improvement that we made this year was we put them both on the beach and roadside so that the ambulance or police car can find it easier. We've also put the latitude and longitude on there in case we need to get a Coast Guard helicopter or something like that to that beach. We've provided the Coast Guard station with the maps and all the latitude and longitudes too, so if it's something that's boat related and they need to go offshore. I've been working with the new Master Chief over there on getting him familiar with where everything is for the summer.
That's great. That's a really good idea.
And I think all the lifeguards are hired and we're ready. We're just cleaning everything up and trying to get everything ready for the season.
All right. Are we talking about the protected species?
Yeah, I think unless, Chief, do you want to?
Don't matter.
Okay.
I had the thing up there, I figured I was designated.
Yeah, I think we're just going to go over, the beach patrols that Sheila
It's in
just
a little
mentioned.
different order in what I'm
Yeah,
looking
sorry.
at.
I was asked to talk about the NPD's preparations and what our operations are for the beaches in the summer. And essentially, we have two main components. We got the ATV patrols on the beaches. Most of the time, that's community service officers during the daytime. Sometimes on the weekends, we'll have full-time police officers out there from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. We can fill overtime slots to do that. We're at Surfside Beach, generally on the South Shore, Smith's Point, 40th Pole, and the North Shore, generally. And then the full-time officers, if they go out in the evenings on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, they concentrate on either the South Shore or the North Shore, depending on where the activity. The other component that we are primarily responsible for is the sale of the beach permits. And unfortunately, May 15th is a really tough time to get stats and try to compare how that compares to last year, because whatever we did up to May 15th, we're going to do 3 times that amount between now and May 31st. May 31st being the day that there'll be a line out the building here for people to buy permits. But a couple of things we do look at, the number we look at is the number that were sold to residents before May 31st, and compare that from year to year, that tells us whether or not we're going to have an increase in sales or not for the year. Right now, we're projecting about $400,000 in revenue from beach sales. If you look at the beach map that goes out every year, it seems to get smaller and smaller and smaller, the areas that they can drive. I anticipate at some point we'll probably start seeing a decline in those sales as there's fewer places for people to drive.
Yes.
I just had one comment. I know this board and the police department works very diligently to control and minimize and prevent inappropriate use of drinking of alcohol on our beaches. And I know in the last couple of years you monitor social media to see if if there's any I guess chatter about that. Mm-hmm. I did receive something yesterday that was a significant concern to me. Uber is sending out a blast email recommending the best beaches in New England to go to. 3 of them are Nantucket, but the first one reads, "Nobody or beach. This beach is the life of the party on Nantucket. Come here for surf, sand, and a few cocktails. And one of the few beaches that allows you to drive the dunes." So I just want to say publicly that I'm offended by a company who's promoting the consumption of alcohol in our beaches. And I just wanted to, and I've reached out to them to share my concerns.
And also, it should be noted that other than a couple of very narrow circumstances where the access to the beach may be over a dune, nobody anywhere is allowed to drive on any dunes on Nantucket, and they would be promptly addressed if we're made aware of that.
Yeah, multiple issues with that.
Yeah.
Had. And as far as those beach permits, I ordered mine online this year, and it was very, very handy. No waiting.
Good.
And they came in the mail, so
Well, there's a
maybe
lot of
some people can
changes.
avoid the line.
A lot of changes to the way we're doing permits, and 99.9% of that credit goes to the women working in there, and Amy Baxter working with them to create customer-friendly systems.
Yep. Online is great.
The Uber is like we're a step closer to Daytona Beach every day. It's crazy.
Mr. Carlson?
Good evening, everybody. All right, so I just wanted to give a quick update for the natural resources portion of this, and kind of our most famous portion with our protected species program. So these are the 3 species that we're tasked by the state and federal government to protect. Obviously, our famous piping plovers on the upper left, American oyster catchers, the funny-looking one on the right, and then least tern. They're all beach nesting species, and they nest directly in the sand in pretty much all cases. And this is why they're subject to levels of protection from the state and federal guidelines. So these areas here, these are the areas that we work with our cooperating agencies and property owners. Just to run through them really quickly, the red on the map is all monitored and observed by the Nantucket Conservation Foundation. We are the purple, and the blue with Mass Audubon. Mass Audubon's kind of the green. The trustees of the reservation is the yellow. U.S. Fish and Wildlife is the very tip of Great Point. And then obviously Tuckernuck Land Trust manages Tuckernuck and Mass Audubon. So the reason I included this slide specifically is you can see all of the areas that are labeled there and in color coded in the last 5 years have all contained either nesting plovers, terns, or oyster catchers, which is what requires us to kind of continually monitor these areas. So Nantucket has a pretty extensive amount of habitat for these birds to be nesting in, and this is kind of why we see fences that all go up at the start of April to protect these habitats in these specific locations. So there are a few empty spots, but there's quite a bit of available habitat out there. So starting a couple years ago, kind of internally and with these cooperators to help out all of the other town departments, we've started compiling kind of just a little checklist for people with kind of estimated times that are there. And as soon as we have changes or things that show up, we update this chart and send it around internally. Again, it pretty much just covers whether it's open to vehicles, whether it be ATV for the police or ATVs for trash pickup, or just regular recreational vehicles that are covered. And then we try to do our best to estimate times as well, just so we know kind of when any closures or restrictions are going to kick in, and when they're hopefully going to end. Most of these bird species take about 60 days to get through their nesting cycle completely. The thing that gets tricky is that plovers typically nest during the month of May and June, so they kind of take up June and July and some of May, start in June and take up July and August. So the overlap is not overly convenient for beachgoers, but we're compelled to follow the guidelines to prevent any takes of these protected species. So really quickly, just some kind of do's and don'ts. A lot of the beaches you'll go to, Jetty's Beach is probably our most public example that we have. You can see symbolic fencing up, and anywhere you see this fencing, there are restrictions on everything from vehicles to no kites. That includes kite boards within 200 yards of those. Vehicles, and vehicles under the guidelines include even beach bikes, which are big fat tired bikes that you see riding on the beach on occasion. We don't see a lot of that, but we do see it on a kind of a few isolated locations. And then most important of all for us, and the thing we probably chase around the most, is like with any beach, pets are required to be leashed. So dogs are, we had a lady last year was walking a cat on the beach that was unleashed. So you see them all comers. But if people have questions or concerns, please contact our office if you're seeing something, or we've had birds that show up outside of these projected areas before, and we try to keep those up. We recommend when you call us, you can speak to us there. There's the beach hotline that's through the Harbor Master office. And then also we try to update as often as we can. We have a website we call the Plover Watch on the Town of Nantucket website, that we try to give updated information anytime there's any significant changes. And one of the things we're going to be adding to that this year is also closures related to properties that the town doesn't manage, because we get a lot of questions and comments about Eel Point and Great Point, and just to try to help get the word out a bit more and to provide people more information. But those are the sites that we're doing. And again, that program starts for us on April the 1st and kind of really runs through realistically the middle of August before you see kind of total openings in a lot of these spots. And I'm happy to take any questions that people have specifically now.
Questions, comments? Thank you so much.
And then one more thing I wanted to add too, I promised Roberto I'd add it for it since he's not here. We also start the week before the lifeguards start doing bathing beach sampling for water, where we focus primarily on bacterial sampling. So we sample for things like E. coli and fecal coliform, and we test those off, and you'll see those signs at a number of the beach accesses that say that the water quality is acceptable or unacceptable, and those are there too. So that program will start for us again in June.
Actually, while you're here, are things going with the fertilizer inspections this year?
They're going well. We do a lot of time just doing educational things. We've spent a lot of time, as recent as yesterday, speaking to groups like the Town Association about how homeowners can be interacting with landscapers to try to get into that avenue. We have been doing a lot of inspections and just routine checks and stops. Overall, I'd say we're seeing more buy-in than before. And on a good news for us this year, a number of the local vendors that sell products have been really focusing on providing BMP compliant products. For the first year ever, a big staple of the industry that we've seen are the tone products, so Plantone, Hollytone, Rosetone, that are all produced by Espoma. And for the first year ever, we were able to get a phosphorus-free version of those available for sale. So that was exciting for us, because I think anyone that's gone out landscaping or seen their landscaper probably in the 5 years previous has seen a bag of that in the truck for their flower beds or their planter boxes. And now there's products that are available that, if applied correctly, will meet the BMP. And we're starting to see that shift in those products come in and suppliers provide those. So it's been going well. Still a ways to go, but we're definitely making progress.
Great. That's good to hear.
Madam Chairman, I think DPW Director is going to give a little overview of what DPW does at the beaches. And while he's coming up, I just want to emphasize that beach hotline number, 228-7261, is the number we encourage people to call for all beach issues, because that's a way for us to track and monitor the calls as well. So if anybody does have concerns, issues, wants to call in about something, please try to use that number.
Thank you. Most of what DPW is up to is getting facilities ready. So working with all these folks previously presented tonight, and want to give my sincere thanks to all the department heads who have caught me up to speed specifically with the procedures here, and really working together to improve the facilities experience this year. Still a lot of challenges to take over before we get into the high season, but again, working together with a strong team here. Any questions with regard to DPW activity? I'll try to answer.
I saw a nice picture of the Surfside picnic area that you're working on earlier today.
Yeah, it's moving along. Again, some of the new concessionaires have been extremely helpful with new ideas, what they want to see, and what they'd like to see in future modifications to sites. We do have an update on the Children's Beach bathrooms. The manufacturer notified us that the mobile bathroom unit has been completed. So construction's done, and now it's a matter of getting it here. So working together to get it here on time. So that's a new feature this year.
Questions?
No.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you
very
all.
much.
Madam Chairman, I want to also thank all of the town departments. They work together really well. Everybody's coordinated, and also special thanks to the Land Bank and the Nantucket Conservation Foundation, because they pitch in from time to time as well, and I think the coordination is really pretty good. So thank you, everybody. The next item under Town Manager's Report is with our energy coordinator, and Lauren Sinatra is going to give us an update on some initiatives to reduce summer peak electricity load. And I want to mention, Lauren might mention this as well, but a lot of Lauren's efforts lately have been to delay or maybe, hopefully, eliminate the need for a third electric cable. And we kind of have struggled with how to get the word out to the public about that, and without a whole lot of words, but a lot of her initiatives relate directly to that, and we're trying to always come up with ways to get people to pay attention to it. And so Lauren really has very much dedication to this, and we really appreciate her efforts. Thank you, Lauren, and the more attention we can give to these programs, the better.
Thank you. Good evening. I have an announcement, an update, and a request regarding various initiatives to decrease our summer peak load, which would in turn defer the need for a costly third cable estimated to be up to $100 to $150 million to local ratepayers. The first is an exciting announcement. Erica, there's a PowerPoint presentation regarding a peak demand reduction program award. The Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, the Mass DOER, has recently selected Nantucket as a demonstration location for a $3 million peak demand reduction program using ice energy thermal storage systems. The project is expected to reduce summer peak demand on Nantucket by about 1.1 megawatts, or approximately 1 year's worth of demand growth. With that, I'd like to introduce Greg Miller, the Executive Vice President of ICE Energy, and Joe Crespo, a partner at GenBright LLC, to just provide a brief overview of the community benefits associated with this program award. But we're very excited to have received word of Nantucket being chosen as the demonstration location.
So thank you. My name is Joe Crespo, and I'm a partner at a company called GenBright that's based out of Hingham, Massachusetts. And my company designs and deploys energy programs that help utilities and the New England grid operator better manage demand on our grid. And we specialize in new technologies like the one that we're going to deploy in this program. And as Lauren mentioned, this program that we're going to start this summer on Nantucket is targeted at lowering the peak demand on the island. And the technology we're using is an energy storage technology that is manufactured by Ice Energy, and that's we have Greg Miller with us today. And this opportunity came about because the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources last year issued a funding opportunity to deploy programs that are targeted at specific geographic areas that need to manage peak electricity demand. And so we collaborated with the Office of Energy and Ice Energy to respond to this funding opportunity. And last month we were awarded the contract from Massachusetts DOER to deploy over 200 residential energy storage systems that are targeted at reducing air conditioning demand on the island. So the way the technology works is essentially we'll go in and replace existing residential compressors on units that are 4 to 5 tons, and the new technology will essentially make ice overnight when the island's not experiencing its peak demand, and then use that ice during the peak hours in the afternoon that are really the hours that we're targeting to reduce, to basically bring the air conditioning electricity demand to zero or pretty close to zero. And this is the perfect fit for Nantucket because, as you know, the peak electricity demand on the island is very seasonal. It basically happens during the summer when the population increases, and also we have air conditioning load. So by deploying this specific technology, which was the technology that GemBright chose to offer into this funding opportunity, we think it's a great fit and will be very effective at reducing the peak demand on the island. And we met today with several of the local HVAC contractors to start sort of spreading the word about the program and getting them familiar with the technology. And actually, if we turn to the next slide, I think there's a little bit of, there we go. There's a little bit of information about the ice bears and how they work, and actually let Greg Miller from Ice Energy talk a little bit about that.
So essentially what we're doing is we're making a smart air conditioner. Today, the islanders, if I can refer to you as that, are consuming energy during the hottest time of the day, and that's when the grid is becoming constrained. What we're trying to do is eliminate that cable constraint during that peak time. The battery essentially is a water battery, so it's an environmentally friendly battery. There is no lead acid, there's no lithium ion associated. It's really a simple technology that just freezes normal tap water in the form, it takes water, turns it into ice during the off-peak periods. It stores that in the form of BTUs, so it converts electrons to BTUs. We store that, and what happens is the air conditioning system, as required by the thermostat or the homeowner, they set what the temperature needs to be in the house, and the air conditioner, being smart, it decides whether it's going to consume energy from the utility or it's going to consume energy that was stored in the tank to deliver that cooling to the space. So there's no dissatisfaction or cooling sacrifice for the resident. So essentially what we're doing is by the Massachusetts DOER helping fund this project, it's helping launch this technology at a cost-effective rate where local contractors can actually profit from this. So we're bringing money back onto the island, helping ratepayers who are paying for those transmission lines to avoid those costs. And so it's very beneficial all the way around. And it is a U.S.-based technology, so again, we're not taking ratepayer money and taking it offshore. So we're very proud of that. Our company's been around 15 years. We consider ourselves a startup. If you work hard for 15 years, at the 15th year you start getting noticed. But we're doing this in mass scale in California. Massachusetts is the next state in all of the United States that's following a mandate. It looks like the Massachusetts will require approximately 600 megawatts of these units be deployed by about the 2020 timeframe. Hawaii is right behind that. Hawaii is going 100% renewable by 2045, so they're adopting solar technology and storage technologies, and our focus is really on the air conditioning systems that are causing the peak to start with.
Questions?
I'm kind of, how does it work on a mini split? Like where is it outside next to the unit?
Yeah, so assume that you have a ductless mini split right on this house, and essentially what we're doing is we're displacing the compressor that's outside your house with a device that has both a compressor and an ice tank built in. The compressor that we have in our system, it not only cools during the non-peak hours, but it also in the off-peak hours, it's actually storing energy while the air conditioning is not being used. So it knows when it's a smart time to make that ice. GenBright, what the combination of our partnership is, they also find opportunities in the marketplace. There's what's called the New England ISO, where capacity is valued on a monetary trading floor. And what they're going to be doing as a part of the program is they'll find summertime peak periods when energy prices, not for the ratepayer, but on the grid itself, there's transactions that are going on behind the scenes. They're able to capture those revenues and bring those revenues back to the island. And we'll turn that into discounted or free equipment so that, again, it helps reduce the cost or investment of these technologies. And it naturally reduces that peak load. And again, really our goal, long-term goal, is to displace that $100 million undersea cable. That's beneficial to the ratepayers of the island.
Is the footprint similar to an existing HVAC unit?
It's about twice the size. Part of ours is an air conditioner, part of it is a tank. Not to make fun of the beach situation, but instead of taking your alcohol to the beach, you could put your beer in the tank and keep your beer cold.
Does it leak water as the ice cools?
It does not. It's a fiberglass tank, so it maintains its system. It actually creates water, so we'll take condensation out of the air and make water. So there's no usage of water either.
Okay.
So.
And what's the lifetime?
We design our products around 20-year life, very similar to an air conditioning system.
And we're in the process of developing a website, so all of the details, once they're confirmed, and this is announced publicly by the state next week, will become online and we'll start communicating more about it. The second item is an update regarding our municipal aggregation program, which launched successfully in March. An update, we have total active accounts about 11,000. We saw an 8.5 opt-out rate, which is actually less than many of the communities our consultants work for. And that's despite, our price being lower than National Grid's basic service for the past winter and this upcoming summer season. We saw 22 people who already had supply contracts come to our program, and 55 participants who opted for the more expensive green option, which our consultants say is 5 times the average they see in other towns, which is in the single digits. So that just speaks to the community's interest in increasing renewable energy content. And to that end, I'm seeking the board's approval tonight to implement an operational adder to our aggregation rate. It is a 1/10 cent increase to fund a solar rebate program for our local residents. The adder increase will make the program rate rise from 9.03 cents a kilowatt hour to 9.13 cents a kilowatt hour, which is about an 80-cent per month increase, or $9 a year, which is still lower. Even at that increase, it's still lower than National Grid's basic service, which is at 9.432. So ours would be 9.13. And this is a one-time increase. We will not be implementing any other adders after this. The only time the price could increase is when we go out to renegotiate our supply bid. As detailed in your packets, the Solar rebate is designed to stimulate local adoption of local renewable energy systems on primary, privately owned residential properties located on Nantucket. Rebates up to $2,500 are provided to cover a portion of the costs of successfully installed solar PV systems, making ownership more affordable for local residents. The increased renewable energy generation will help to green the local electric supply and reduce summer peak load and costly capacity charges, resulting in lower electric supply and distribution costs for Nantucket electric ratepayers. With the Board of Selectmen's approval today, the adder amount would take effect in July. And with that, I know there's a lot of information in the policy document, but I welcome any questions.
If you look at it, do you think that it will pay for itself? By doing this, is it a break-even situation?
I'm not sure I would characterize it that way.
In the big picture, if it works?
What would break even?
Well, if enough people use solar, and then we're lowering our peak demand, and then we're able to purchase electricity at a lower price, is it sort of one of those, it's a step toward?
There's a lot of factors at play, and in the policy document, you can see there's about 7 or 8 goals that can come out of this program alone, both on the individual benefit, but also the community-wide benefit. But the way it's structured is we have to build in benefits for our aggregation participants. So if we increase solar, if we increase storage, we'll decrease capacity costs, which will in turn allow us to get a better retail rate on our supply going forward. And this has never been done in the state before. It was modeled after the town of Concord's municipal light program. They do something similar. The town of Kingston does something similar, but this is the first renewable energy program funded by an aggregation in the state, and we're excited to launch it with your approval.
So we need a vote?
Yes.
I move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. And the very last item is a request for a letter of support. The Massachusetts Clean Energy Center recently announced a $10 million Advancing Commonwealth Energy Storage Program, the ACES program, that offers state funding to advance energy storage development across Massachusetts. Tesla is proposing a Nantucket-based project, which awarded would offer our local residents discounted Powerwall backup batteries and advanced availability of the solar roof, which is a solar shingle building integrated PV product. On May 1st, a team of Tesla engineers and staff visited Nantucket and met with a group of internal stakeholders, including members from our Board of Selectmen, the HGC, the building department, and we all felt that the feedback was very positive for this proposal. And they're seeking a letter of support from the Board of Selectmen to strengthen their grant proposal, and I'm happy to help to coordinate that letter with your approval.
Good idea.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lauren.
I just had perhaps a question or a comment for the board. I know we've seen a lot of projections about a year ago from National Grid on when we might need the third cable. I don't really have an understanding about the cumulative effect of all these projects. Like how are we making a difference? It might be something we want to talk about at a future board meeting because, you know, all these things are great, but I don't know if we're meeting that goal or how far away we are from it.
If I could just add, if nothing is done, if our rate of consumption continues at the rate it's going, which is 5 times the statewide average, we would need a cable by 2029. But all of these storage initiatives especially, and increasing renewable generation will keep deferring that timeline out and out and out. And who knows, maybe at that point there's another technology that could solve.
And my point is it's good to get some not the measurement of that.
And
now.
these are all initiatives spearheaded by the town's leadership without the support of the utility, which has been frankly disappointing.
That's a whole other, okay. Well, that's more to talk about then, I think.
Yeah, it would be helpful to get updates like, now we're not 2029, we're 2030.
Right.
Those measures.
Yeah, I attended when Tesla came, and they had in their packet that they gave out, they were showing the demand curve and showing it going up during the day. But it makes sense. You know, if you look at that curve going like this, if all of a sudden in the middle of the day you have a lot of storage so that's coming online, you have a lot of photovoltaic, et cetera, going on, then all of a sudden, it just doesn't go all the way up, it kind of goes across. So really, in the times that you'd use those technologies are right at our peak time. It's the middle of the summer, and it's, 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night. It's right when the peak is, and that's why we need the cable. We don't need the cable the other times of day. So a lot of this stuff could be really, really effective.
Yeah, good.
The other point that came up that was interesting is there's a lot of, a lot of the larger homes have generators. And I think a lot of these will switch over to the batteries if they can. It's a lot, it's better than a generator in a lot of ways. And some people have tried to spec it and not been able to do it yet. And Tesla coming here first would give us the opportunity. And those are some of the largest homes with the biggest demand. So if I've got that right? Yes, okay, so.
Great.
Madam Chair? Yes. I just want to mention that Lauren is coming back, I think, on the 7th to review the status of the Vineyard Power offshore wind project. So that'll be interesting as well.
Great. All right. Well, and thank you for coming to talk about the technology. So we're down to Selectmen's report and comments, and all we have is committee reports, which I have a couple, but does anybody want to go first? Rita?
First, I was at the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We had our meeting yesterday, and Justin's group, the cooperative project, they've done, I think, a great job of updating their numbers, answering the questions that we had, and they're going to be presenting to us again end of June.
Okay, so we'll be doing that on the 21st?
I think, that was what was discussed, so they were going to have things
Tucker
ready
in the
the
back.
week before.
Are they thinking about the 21st?
Yes, they're thinking about the 21st. There are a couple of open.
Anybody else? I just wanted to bring up our strategic planning retreat. We collectively spent about an hour on Friday afternoon in a pre-meeting, and then a 4-hour session on Saturday morning. Everybody was there before 8 a.m. Upstairs, and I thought that it was really productive, us as a group and with a facilitator, just about our direction, and it's something that we need to continue. And I think that we were going to bring it back on June 7th as well to talk about our next steps on how we can implement some of what we identified and potentially schedule some more sessions with a facilitator to further define our plans.
Just to further that discussion, we brainstormed and multiple voted and prioritized, came up with, I think, 3 areas to focus on in the next couple of years: transportation, environmental, leadership, and housing. We considered a lot of other topics, but those seemed to come to the fore. It was a great session, very collaborative on part of all the board members.
Agreed.
And then I just also wanted to mention that we will be reviewing proposals for the 6 Fairgrounds project. They were due by 1 o'clock today, and 3 bids came in, so we're really excited to go through that process. Matt and I are on that committee. We'll have more to bring forth later. And if there's nothing else,
Make a motion to adjourn. Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.